You want to be calling the roll tonight? Sure.
Ms. Atkinson,
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson, Dr. Fitz,
Yes.
Mr. Howell,
Here.
Mr. Lockwood,
Yes.
Ms. Price, Chair Davenport.
Here. Unless there's additions or corrections or changes to last month's minutes, motion to accept, please.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Lockwood, second by Ms. Atkinson to approve the minutes.
Mr. Lockwood,
Yes.
Ms. Atkinson,
Yes.
Dr. Fitz,
Yes.
Mr. Howell,
Yes.
Chair Davenport.
Yes. Before we begin our hearing tonight, our counselor, there he is, Mr. Hoy Hodges will tell you what you have to do to get your request approved. Mr. Hodges?
And, Mr. Chairman, on all these applications tonight, I'd ask that the following matters be made a part of the record. The joint zoning ordinance of Bowling Green, Warren County, the comprehensive plan, the staff report, and any exhibits which are attached to those reports should also be made a part of the record. And if you would, please go ahead and swear in and recognize their qualifications as zoning administrators, Rachel Hurt, Amy Scott, and Jenny Willoughby.
You all swear to tell the truth, ladies?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You see, the first three items on the agenda tonight are either request for a variance or a waiver. With a variance, there's certain findings set forth in KRS 100.243 that the board must make. The board must find that the requested variance will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, that it will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity, that it will not cause a hazard or a nuisance to the public, that it will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulations. And with respect to the waiver, there's additional findings set forth in section 3.8.4 that the board must make. The last two items are both for conditional use permits, and those findings are set forth in section 3.9.5 of the zoning ordinance. The requested use must be found not to be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare in the zone in which it is proposed, that it will not constitute or that it will not contribute toward an overburdening of municipal services, that the use will not constitute a nuisance, that it adequately addresses the review criteria set forth in 3.9.4 of the zoning ordinance, and also that it's in compliance with any specific use standards that may apply to the requested use. I mentioned the review criteria in section 3.9.4 of the zoning ordinance. That does require that the applicant has the burden of adequately addressing that review criteria, one of which is compatibility. So it's your initial burden to address the criteria, including compatibility. In order to prevail on your request, you need a majority vote of those present. If you're dissatisfied with the results, you have 30 days to file an appeal, and that will go directly to Warren Circuit Court.
Thanks, sir.
I think that's it, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Our first request tonight, Robert Dugutz has filed an application requesting a waiver to allow a newly constructed accessory building to be located in front of the primary residence located at 2364 Old Green Hill Road, and this property is zoned RE Residential Estate. Yes, ma'am.
Give me just a second to get it opened up.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a pre-application meeting for the property over on Old Green Hill Road back in August. The current zoning of the property is residential estate. Current land use is single-family residential, and there is their concept for reference or for the submission for their building permit. And then we'll look at some photos just for reference of the building, and then an image from the road for some reference on the context of the site. And then let me rotate this so we can look at that. The applicant is requesting a waiver to allow a newly constructed detached building to be located in front of the primary residence. A building permit was approved for the detached building, however, the structure was not constructed in the approved location and is now located in front of the residence. Looking down to the zoning ordinance reference, section 4.4.5.E.1, no accessory building or structure shall extend beyond the front of the principal structure. The waiver findings are on the bottom of page 2 and moving over to bottom of page 1, moving over to page 2. And then that is where the applicant has also provided a narrative and summary of their request for you all to read. And then looking back to page 1 with some points to consider on their request. The proposed waiver will not alter the character of the general vicinity, as there are several properties along Old Green Hill Road that have structures located in front of the primary structure. And then that's just a reference to look at the applicant's narrative on page 2 as well. And then the applicant has included a color design measure that matches the existing accessory structures in the area to help compensate for non-compliance. And that's all that I have for the staff report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of the staff from the board? Any questions of the staff? Applicant here?
Yes, sir.
You're the applicant, okay. Does the board have any questions of the applicant? All right, any opposition to this request? From what it sounds like somebody just built it the wrong way.
They built it the wrong way. Yes, there's a lot of mistakes made on this one, sir.
Sorry. All right, a motion, please.
I'll make a motion that we reluctantly accept the approval for a request of a waiver at 2364 Old Green Hill Road, docket number 2024-V-16, a waiver to allow accessory building or structure to extend beyond the front of the principal structure. Testimony presented in this public hearing has shown that granting these waivers will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity, will not cause a hazard or nuisance to the public, and will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulations. I further find that the waiver will not violate the comprehensive plan, and the extent of the waivers of the regulation is the minimum necessary to afford relief to the applicant. The strict application of the provisions of the regulations would deprive the applicants of a reasonable use of the land or would create an unnecessary hardship on the applicants. And that it is compatible with the general vicinity of this property.
It's proper motion.
All right.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Fitz, second by Ms. Atkinson.
Dr. Fitz?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Lockwood?
Yes.
Ms. Price? Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Chair Davenport?
Yes, your request has been approved, sir. Thank you for coming down. Appreciate it. Our next request tonight, MAC Development and Holdings LLC, care of Andy Schultz, have filed an application requesting a variance of 10 feet from the required 20 feet sign setback from the edge of the pavement located at 3509 Nashville Road and portion of the property along Nashville Road, approximately 480 feet northeast of Cedar Way. Now, these properties are zoned HB Highway Business and RM4 Multifamily Residential. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a pre-application meeting on June the 19th for the properties that you mentioned. Again, the applicants are requesting a variance of 10 feet from the required 20 feet sign setback from the edge of pavement in order to install a sign for the benefit of lots 3 and 4, which are located in the rear of those properties. The current zoning is HB and RM4. Current land use is single-family residential and vacant. And the site plan is on page 7 for reference. If you see the little red box kind of up in the top right corner, that will be the location of the sign. there. It might be kind of hard to see in your packets, but that's where the sign location will go. And then we also have photos on page 8, but we have them to display, so it'll go kind of in this corner here along this fence line, and then just a side view of where the sign would be located with that. There's a zoning ordinance reference, section 4.6.8.f.2.c. All freestanding signs shall be set back a minimum of 20 feet from the edge of pavement. Below that are the variance findings for your reference. And on page 2, the applicants did supply a narrative for justification for their variance. Back to page 1 for the points to consider. The variance request will not alter the character of the area as there are signs of similar size and height along Nashville Road, and the proposed sign location complies with the edge of pavement setback along Nashville Road. That's all we have for a staff report. We can answer any questions.
All right. Excuse me, any questions from the staff, from the board?
Was there any description of how high the pole is going to be before the sign, we see the sign?
I believe that Cameron is here representing the applicant, and he might be able to speak to the size of that, maybe. I don't remember. This property was rezoned a couple months ago, and I do not remember if there was any DPCs that limited the sign square footage. Do you remember that, or height? I can't remember.
I don't think there were, because the intent all along was to share the sign,
Okay, yeah.
but I can double check.
What is, I didn't hear exactly what she said.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I'm not aware of the sign height, but maybe Cameron can speak to what that'll look like. He worked on the variance, and I'm not sure if he knows the ins and outs of what the actual sign will look like. But maybe
Okay.
he can speak to that.
Good, thank you.
Do you want to ask him? Do you want this gentleman to? Yeah. Could you come up, sir? I'm sorry.
Yes.
We need to swear you in. Can we have your full name and address?
Cameron Esters, 2633 Thames Valley Close Court.
Do you swear to tell the truth, sir?
Yes, sir. To answer that, I don't think he has picked out an exact sign yet, but we still plan to be within the highway business regulation, so it's not going to be any taller than any existing signs that's already along Nashville Road with the highway business. I don't think, Rachel, you might be able to answer this, but I don't think there's any specific development plan conditions that said we're going to limit it to a certain height, but we're definitely going to be within the normal highway business regulations.
Well, what I was mainly asking about is how far is it from the ground to the sign? Because, you're in an area that it gets congested right after
Right.
right after that. And so my question is it going to be high enough off that it's going to clear the visual fields, sight lines down Nashville Road toward Franklin? That's my question.
I think it'll be, I don't know exactly the height again. The developer would have to answer that, but he plans to have it sitting up high enough. If you could tell by the pictures, the road is kind of sitting up higher, so we need to have it at least a couple feet off the road to get even level with where the new proposed road is. And so I don't know exact heights again, but that's all I can give you at this time.
Dr. Fitz,
Yes.
I understand your question, and the sign will be set back at the minimum that's required from Nashville Road so that it doesn't impede sight distance.
Very good. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from the board? All right. Thank you, sir. Any opposition to this request? Any opposition? Motion, please.
I make a motion we approve the request for a variance, docket number 2024-V-19, a variance of 10 feet from the required 20-foot sign setback from the edge of the pavement. Testimony presented in this public hearing has shown that granting this variance will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity, will not cause a hazard or nuisance to the public, and will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulation, and that it's otherwise compatible with the other buildings in the highway business area.
this proper motion.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Fitz, second by Ms. Atkinson.
Dr. Fitz?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Lockwood?
Yes.
Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Chair Davenport?
Yes. Your request, their request has been approved, your request, who's doing it. Thank you very much, appreciate it. The next request, Pleasure Pools. Is anybody here representing Pleasure Pools or the applicant on Hamilton Court? We'll move this down to the bottom and see if they show up. So we're going to move on to Rivendell Behavioral Health Services, a Kentucky applicant, and UHS Bowling Green LLC, DBA Rivendell Behavioral Health Services owner, have filed an application to amend the existing conditional use permit for a group living facility for behavioral health services in order to expand the square footage excuse me, and number of patient beds located at 1035 Porter Pike. This property is zoned RM4, multifamily residential. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a pre-application on August the 28th for the property that you highlighted. Again, the applicants are requesting to amend their existing CUP for a group living facility for behavioral health services, again, to expand the current square footage of the existing facility and to add an additional 24 patient beds. The original CUP, just for your reference, was approved in 2006. Current zoning is RM4. The current land use is public institutional. And the site plans can be found on page 7 and 8 of your packet. So here, here's the exterior layout, and then they did provide kind of a zoomed in of where those beds would be located and exactly what they're expanding. Photos, as you can see, it's going to the right side of the building. This is kind of a photo up close, and then as you can see from the roadway, where that would look in relation to the building. There's a zoning ordinance reference in Article 5, Section 5.1, the use table. A conditional use permit is required to operate a group living facility on property zoned RM4. Specific use standards, staff determined there were no applicable specific use standards that apply to this particular group living facility. Below that are the conditions that the applicants have agreed upon. Maximum square footage of the facility will be 99,000 square feet. There will be a maximum of 149 patient beds, and the proposed building addition will be constructed of similar materials as the existing structure, and will remain compatible with the surrounding area. Over on page 2 are the conditional use permit findings for your reference. And looking back at page 1 to the points to consider, there are none pending public hearing and testimony this evening. That's all we have for a staff report. Happy to answer any questions.
It says there'll be a maximum of 149 patient beds, but on your summary, it says an additional 25. So is it just 25 new beds going in? Or is it 149 new beds? Not that I care.
24 new beds. So currently, it's 125 patient beds. They're adding 24,
Okay.
which would total 149.
All right, any questions of the staff from the board representing Rivendell? All right. Any opposition to this request? Does the board have any questions of Rivendell before we go? Any opposition? Motion, please.
Make a motion to approve the conditional use permit docket number 2024-C-29 for a group living facility located at 1035 Porter Pike with the conditions as presented in the staff report. The testimony presented in this public hearing has shown that the use is valuable to public health, safety, and welfare in the zone in which is proposed. The use will not contribute to an overburdening of municipal services. The use will not result in increased traffic congestion, additional parking problems, substantial increase in population density, environmental problems or constitute a nuisance, and that the use otherwise meets the requirements of the zoning ordinance and that it is compatible with the existing facility.
Proper motion.
Second.
All right. Motion by Dr. Fitz, second by Ms. Atkinson.
Dr. Fitz?
Yes?
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Lockwood?
Yes.
Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Yes, your request has been approved, sir. Thank you very much for coming down. All righty, our next request, John Hellinger has filed an application for conditional use permit for a home occupation, more specifically to operate a welding, repair, and metal fabrication shop located at 1706 Detour Road. His property is on RE Residential Estate. Yes, ma'am, Rachel.
Thank you, Chair Davenport. We had a pre-application meeting back in September for the property you just referenced, located on Detour Road. This is the aerial view of the property. You can see that the current zoning is RE Residential Estate. The current use of the property is single family, and this is the site plan for your reference. I will jump to the photos here so that you can see what the property looks like today. That's the building in question in this photo. I'll go back to the site plan. And the applicants have applied for a conditional use permit to operate a home occupation, more specifically for welding. And you'll see the zoning ordinance reference on page 1, which requires a conditional use permit to operate a home occupation on property zoned residential estate. And then at the bottom of page 1, we've got a reference to section 522C. And then specifically number 7, you'll see calls out welding as an eligible use for a home occupation. I will note on page 3, just under the staff review summary, that a building permit was submitted after the building was constructed, and at that time it was discovered that the structure was built within an electrical easement. However, Warren Rural Electric has granted permission for the encroachment of the shop building with the requirement that no other modifications to the building or encroachments within the easement will be granted without prior approval by Warren Rural Electric. Looking at page 2, I'll go over the conditions that were supplied by the applicant. There are 2. The first, hours of operation will be by appointment only from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Saturday, and there will be no more than 2 client vehicles on the property at a time. Looking on page 1, we do not have any points to consider pending public hearing and testimony. I believe that's all for the staff report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of the staff from the board? Any questions of the staff? Applicant here? Are you there? We might want to ask you a couple of questions if you don't mind, sir. We need to swear you in. If we could get your full name and address, please.
John Hellinger, 1706 Detour Road.
And you swear to tell the truth, sir? Just a couple of questions. Since it is a residential neighborhood and you are putting in a business, just exactly what will you be doing there?
I'm an engineer by trade, and I retired. Spent a lot of years in the metal fabrication and welding type work, and I'd like to get back into that. But I am a, engineering consultant with formerly Hewish and Son, then Henkel, and I retired a couple of years ago, and so I got my LLC license to be an engineering consultant, and when I submitted it, I submit to the state, I stipulated that I would want to have a small fabrication shop, welding shop for welding repairs, whatever the client needs are. So that would, get into all different various types of welding.
Will this produce any excessive noise?
No.
Odor?
I mean, the building is very well insulated. So I don't think the neighbors are close enough for me to make enough noise to,
Any type of odor coming from this type of operation?
well, right at the point of work, yeah, but it'll dissipate so quickly that none of the neighbors would even know.
All right, any questions, any other questions of the applicant from the board?
You want to ask him?
Any questions?
Ordinarily, when we have a CUP, we ask that if you are no longer there and you sell the property, is that agreeable to you that the conditional use permit will be void?
Goes away.
Goes
If you
away.
move
If
off
you
that
move off
property.
that property.
Well, if somebody wanted to, if I, God forbid, pass away, I have a son, and, but at this point, he's a mechanical engineer as well, graduated from Western Kentucky, but he hasn't shown any interest in that hands-on type kind of work.
Well, this is, quite frankly, that if he took over your house, he can always come back and, just like you've come, and get a
apply.
conditional use to continue what he's doing.
I understand.
But what we are trying to avoid is, not that it looks like that it's not going to be congested out there, I realize that. But ordinarily, we try not to have continuous, conditional uses if the person who received the conditional use is no longer the person whose
Property.
whose property it is.
Well, I
Does
guess-
that make sense?
Yeah, and you can amend this to,
Add that to
Just
it.
add it, yeah.
In other words, we're not for sure the new property owner will adhere to the same guidelines that you're going to. We want to make sure they
yeah,
do that.
I understand, sir.
All right, any other questions of the applicant from the board? Any opposition to this request? Any opposition? Motion, please.
I'll make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit docket number 2024-C-30 for a home occupation located at 1706 Detour Road with the conditions as presented in the staff report, plus a cancellation of the conditional use permit if the property is sold. The testimony presented in the public hearing has shown that the use is not detrimental to public health, safety, or welfare in the zone in which proposed. Use will not constitute toward an overburdening of municipal services. The use will not result in increased traffic congestion, additional parking problems, substantial increase in population density, environmental problems, or constitute a nuisance, and that the use otherwise meets the requirements of the zoning ordinance, and that this conditional use is compatible with the neighborhood.
Proper motion.
Second.
Motion, Dr. Fitz, second by Ms. Atkinson.
Dr. Fitz?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Lockwood?
Yes.
Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Chair Davenport?
Yes. Your request has been approved, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you, and
sir.
good luck to you out there.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it. Have you good evening. Our next request tonight, Pleasure Pools LLC applicant, and I'm only going to try to say these two names, the names that are on the application owners have filed an application requesting a variance of 3 feet from the required 10 feet swimming pool setback located at 1459 Hamilton Court. And this property is zoned RS-1A, single-family residential. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a pre-app meeting on April the 18th for the property that you mentioned. Again, the applicants are requesting a variance of 3 feet from the required 10 feet swimming pool setback to allow a swimming pool to be located 7 feet from the rear property line. The current zoning is RS1A. The current land use is single-family residential. And the variance exhibit can be found on page 7. And then we also have photos on page 8 for your reference there. That would be the general area of the pool location in the back there. Looking down to the zoning ordinance reference, section 4.4.5.E.6.2, a swimming pool as an accessory use to a residential structure shall be located no closer than 10 feet to the rear property line. Below that are the variance findings for your reference. Page 2, you can read the submitted narrative that the applicants have supplied, and staff has included several points for the board to consider on page 1 of this report. So looking at those, the applicant could have selected a different location in the side yard for placement of the pool, and the variance request would not be necessary. There are no exceptional topographic conditions that are applicable to the property. The applicant could have selected an alternate location that complies with the requirements of the zoning ordinance. The strict application of the provisions of the regulations do not deprive the applicant of the reasonable use of the land and do not create an unnecessary hardship on the applicant. And the proposed variance will alter the character of the general vicinity, as there are currently no other structures in the Highland Point development that are located within any required setback. But that's all we have for a staff report. We can answer any questions.
All right. Any questions from the board or the staff? Are the applicants here? Are you the applicants? We might have a couple of questions for you if you don't mind, sir. If you could come up, we need to swear you in. Oh, that's all right. We just moved you to the end of the agenda. You're okay. Don't worry about it. Glad you showed. And your full name and address, please?
Well, I'm representing Pleasure Pools, so I'm not one of them.
I need to swear you in. though.
Okay.
Your full name and address.
Thomas J. Gorecki, and it's 1022 Jenkins Lane, Hendersonville, Tennessee.
All right. And you swear to tell the truth, sir?
I swear to
Thank
tell
you.
the truth.
You're representing the applicant. What's their opinion on putting the pool in a different location on that property?
Well, unfortunately, the builder was supposed to be here. The gentleman, as you said, his name is difficult to pronounce. He was under the impression that the builder had left enough room for a pool. When we got out there to actually start laying out the pool or proposed pool, we realized that we were into the setbacks. But at that point, the house had already been constructed with a covered porch and all the amenities you'd want right off of a pool. So we started looking at all those, what we could do, if we could shift the pool right or left. He has quite a large side yard, that is true, but just the fact that the pool would be nowhere near his outdoor living area was the reason why he really wanted to try and put it back there. Josh Atkins, the builder, submitted a plan to Chad Doherty, the assistant city engineer, and we had a tentative approval that we could go into that. So we went on that assumption that we had done what we needed to do. When the permit was applied for, that's when we learned that there was an additional step that we had to do. So that's where we're at right now.
Back of that house is awful close to that property line.
Yeah, it's very close in, the drainage easement is, I believe that's what we're calling it. It's barely even a dip.
I noticed that.
Yeah, so it's, what we're proposing is in order to get the pool just outside of the supports for the covered porch, the main part of the house, we need a foot. We picked the smallest pool we could, which is 8 feet, and then we need another foot on the other side for space, and then putting a small retaining wall there to hold the pool up to the level of back porch. So that's what got us into that portion. And it's only on one part of the pool. As you go, if you looked at the property lines, it widens and gets further away as you go, if you're looking at the house to the left.
Okay.
So there's only one pinch point that's really tight.
Okay. So you're saying that on the right-hand side of the house?
It's a little closer, yes.
It's within the setback almost?
It
Close.
is. That's where it becomes the tightest.
Okay.
And like I said, as you go to the left, it opens up.
And it is an in-ground pool, it's not an above-ground pool, correct?
It's an in-ground pool,
In-ground.
but what we're proposing is, his porch is 4 feet up from the grade, so what we're proposing is to put a retaining wall, and I have a quick picture to show you. It's the same material that you guys have for your sign. It's a structural block, to basically create that level, and then the pool will set in between that and the house.
So the retaining wall will be at the backside of the pool?
Yes, the retaining wall on the backside of the pool.
All right, very good. All right, any other questions of this gentleman from the board? Thank you very much, sir.
I live in the neighborhood, be ready for a lot of rock.
Well, the good thing is we're coming, if we get approved, we're coming up 4 feet, and the pool's only 4 feet deep, so we're good.
Oh. Well, you lucked out then, because they jackhammered over there for a year and a half.
Oh, yeah. We face that quite a bit when we put pools in. Depends on where we are.
All right. Any other question on the board? All right, any opposition to this request? Any opposition? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, a motion, please.
I make a motion, we approve the request for variance at 1459 Hamilton Court, docket number 2024-3-20, with the conditions outlined in the staff report. A variance of 3 feet from the required 10-foot swimming pool setback. The testimony presented in this public hearing has shown that the granting of the variance will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity, will not cause a hazard or nuisance to the public, and will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulation, and that it is compatible with the neighborhood.
This proper motion.
Second.
Motion, Dr. Fitz, second by Ms. Atkinson.
Dr. Fitz?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Lockwood?
Yes.
Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Chair Davenport?
Yes, their request has been approved. Thank y'all. I'm glad y'all showed up. We're about to.
We just kept trying. We saw lights on.
Okay. Well, thank y'all for coming down. Good luck to you. All righty. Any old business?
We did get a favorable ruling on the appeal for a short-term rental that Nancy Roberts had filed on
Good.
property located on Catherine Drive months, I could say years ago, it seems like. But it's been several months ago, and Warren Circuit Court did affirm your decision.
Good. Remember what it was on Catherine Drive over in
Catherine.
Forest Park? Yeah, okay. Any new business? Yeah.
I'm a resident of Warren County. My name is Brian Fishback. When did y'all move y'all's meeting location? I was looking for y'all just like they were, I couldn't find it.
About a year ago, wasn't it? Something.
Been that long?
It's been a while. I don't know.
Okay, well, there's a land change, there's a sign up there at the Rivendell location off Porter Pike. I just want to know what that is.
Sign change, oh.
For
because
the conditional use
sign was
permit?
up at
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
they're adding on to their building. They're putting more beds in.
Oh, they're not going to like build more apartments, somebody's going to?
No,
There's
no,
something
no,
going
no,
across
no.
the street
No,
too.
No.
have you seen where the do I need to swear him in?
They've already done they've already done site work.
Yeah.
Ben's saying, no, you don't need to swear
Okay.
in.
Okay, across the street, next to the apartments over there, they're doing something too, down by the road.
That has nothing to do with
New
this.
apartments or something?
That has
That
nothing
doesn't
to do with
have
this.
anything to do, Ben, do you guys know anything about another sign? The,
So you only deal with the signs, you don't deal with the
no,
just other stuff being
but
cleared out?
Rivendell is expanding, and that's what came before us, and that's the sign you would see. It's all part of an extension of the building.
And it's on the right-hand side of the Rivendell, not the left-hand side.
So the part that's on McFadden Station Road or the part that's on Porter
No,
Pike?
it's not on McFadden, it has nothing to do with McFadden.
Porter Pike.
Also, there's been like new housing built back there on Rivers Landing. There's like 40 or 50 houses. And the place, the area smells like sewage now.
Wait,
That doesn't, we don't have anything to do
That doesn't come
with
under
that.
our purvey. We don't want to get
Now,
into that.
the staff may be able to direct you to someone who could help you with that, but that doesn't have anything to do with us.
Okay, okay. I was just wondering what it was, because I was just.
No problem.
Because it's,
Do we answer your question?
I lived out there about 35 years in that area, and they added those houses in Rivers Landing.
That has nothing to do with
And
this.
so y'all don't deal with sewage expansion, anything?
Nope.
That's planning and zoning board. That's a whole
No.
different world there.
Planning and zoning. So are y'all.
We're the Board of Adjustments.
Planning and zoning.
But
Yeah.
the planning commission doesn't deal with sewer issues. That would be just, yeah, with Warren County Water. Is that who serves that area? I'm pretty sure it's Warren County Water. I think so. If not, it would be BGMU.
But what we did tonight was just, Rivendell is just adding on to their building up there is all they're doing.
Okay.
There are no apartments, nothing to do with that, and I'm sure they won't have any sewage from Rivendell, so we should be all right there.
Okay.
All right, thanks for coming down, though.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. All right, any other new business? We adjourned. Thank you all. Good job.